What's up, guys? This is Jordan Haddock.
What's up? This is Anthony Colavito.
What's up, guys? This is Pat Senior.
What's up, everyone? This is Graham Tuck, and you're listening to the New Guys podcast presented by Ride the Wave Media. What is up? Welcome back, guys. New Guys podcast, season 2, episode 5, coming at you. 3 of the 4 with us here this week. Anthony's got some stuff going on with school right now, so he's taking a break, and no problem with that whatsoever. All that stuff is so much more important. But you know the drill. Follow all of us on social media. Handles are in the descriptions. As always, presented by Ride the Wave. We're going to jump right into it. We omitted this last week, but this week we're doing our winners and losers from week 3 in the NFL. Some shocking games, some not so shocking games. And Jordan, I know you've got a lot on your mind about this past week. So if you want to jump right into your winners and losers from this week.
Yeah, so there were some pretty stark predictions made last week between us. There's a couple of lone dogs from Graham. I was a lone dog in the Chiefs, so there's a lot of different ways we could go with the winners and losers. So I'll start with my winner. I got Jared Goff as the winner. It was between him and Mahomes for me. I think Mahomes kind of pushed himself into that. He's way ahead of every quarterback in the league, but I think Jared Goff has a lot of question marks about him, at least coming into the season, even more so coming into this game specifically against the Bills defense, who's arguably the best in the league. And he showed that he can put up 30 plus on a fantastic defense, or against a fantastic defense, and really, could have won the game if his defense could have held up. So I think he's definitely my winner this week. He's proven that he's still, should be considered a top quarterback in the league and can lead the Rams to the playoffs. And then for my loser, I'm going to have to go with the Eagles special teams, because if any of you guys watched the finale of that game, I mean, the Eagles as a whole should be a loser because they just don't know what they're doing. But they had that field goal. It was going to be a long one, but Jake Elliott's got a boot, so he could have got it. And someone on their line false starts in overtime, and just puts them out of field goal range. Like, it would have been like a 67-yarder. So they lost in the game theoretically. It ends in a tie. The Eagles season gets even worse. The NFC East just gets absolutely just I don't even know how to explain how bad the NFC East is. It's sad. But yeah, the Eagles defense will be my loser, definitely. Or special teams, I should say. And then I got Jared Goff as the winner.
All right, I guess I'll go next.
Yeah, Pat, run it.
Honestly, if you know me, I'm not a big Cowboys guy, and I said last week I didn't really think they were serious contenders, and Graham took exception to that. I think everybody did. But I'm going to go with my winner of the week being Dak Prescott. I did not know that he threw 57 times. I'm looking at it right now. But he kept them in the game with arguably the best team in the whole entire NFL, in the Seattle Seahawks. Arguably the best offense. Probably the best offense thus far. So I got to give it to him. I got to give him credit where credit's due. And then for my loser, oh my God, I got to go with Lamar Jackson. Just like a absolutely terrible, abysmal, pathetic performance from the MVP last year. He threw 97 yards. As a former MVP going against probably your only real threat in the AFC, you lay an absolute goose egg on Monday Night Football, 15 for 28, 97 yards, a touchdown. Mahomes threw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. You're just getting outplayed, kid. You got to step it up. It's just not a good look at all. It's terrible. So he's the biggest loser of the season so far with that game. Terrible.
So for me, it was much easier to pick a loser for the week than to pick a winner. I would say that my winner for this week is probably going to have to be Matthew Stafford, because the Lions were in a close game with the Cardinals, who were undefeated entering the week. Kyler Murray played particularly well. First of all, there was one play in I can't remember if it was late third or middle of the fourth quarter. Cardinals had a 4th and 1, and Cliff Kingsbury chose to take Kyler Murray out of the game to try to run a play. And it just did not work whatsoever. They put in the backup quarterback for seemingly no reason. And Kyler got pretty heated at Cliff on the sideline after the fact. But Matthew Stafford finally had Kenny Golladay back this week. He had production from his skill players for the first time this season, serious production. And he pulled out a close win against a very good team. Matt Patricia managed the clock well. I was impressed with the Lions this week. I say that they're slept on, but I was kind of sleeping on them in my prediction articles this year. I don't have too much faith in them in in their ability to win games, but I think that they have an underrated core and they'll be a decent team, maybe a playoff contender within the next 2 years. For the loser this week, this may come as a shock to many, but I'm going to have to go with Dak Prescott.
Wow.
Despite
That is a
the
shock.
way that he played, it has nothing to do with the way that he played because he absolutely carried the Cowboys. I'm calling him a loser this week because he had to carry the Cowboys because Ezekiel Elliott played like garbage. He was so bad. He had like 3 drops in the game, and all of them were on easy, wide open checkdowns. So passes that he always hauls in. He wasn't able to get anything going on the ground the entire game. And the Seahawks don't even have that great of a front four. Like I think since Jadeveon Clowney's departure, I could name maybe one person on their defensive line. They have a good linebacking core, but their defense was decimated with injuries, and he still wasn't able to do anything on the ground. And I think that if Ezekiel Elliott produces even to 50% of what he normally does, the Cowboys win that game. So I'm going to call Dak Prescott a loser because he did everything he could, and it still wasn't enough for the Cowboys this week. To be fair, I also did predict the Seahawks to win this week. So this past week. So that ended up being a dub for me. So speaking of last week, our picks, Jordan, Pat, and I all went 8 for 16. 50% ain't too bad, but like it's one of the worst showings that any of us have had this season. Easily Jordan's worst showing of the season so far.
Yeah.
And Anthony did even worse.
How do you do that?
With a 7 for 16. So it's probably a good thing that he's not on this week to have to justify the atrocities.
That's why he's not here. He was ashamed.
He was so embarrassed. No, but that gives Jordan a 2-point lead over Pat with 31 correct picks. Pat's got 29, Anthony has 28, and I'm 1 behind with 27. So it's getting closer week by week. And as we jump into it this week, starting off with one of the worst games the NFL has seen in a while, we've got the Drew Lock, Cortland Sutton-less Denver Broncos against the Adam Gase-led New York Jets.
Yeah, you said it right. This is one of the worst primetime games in recent history, at least. It would have been obviously a lot better if Drew Lock and Sutton were. Even if Drew Lock was healthy, you get Drew Lock, Sam Darnold, 2 young quarterbacks. It's a decent storyline.
Yeah.
Now you got Driscoll against, I don't know, maybe even Bortles. Who knows? We don't even know what's happening with the Broncos situation.
Right.
But yeah, it's a pretty bad game here. Adam Gase's job is on the line and his integrity, honestly, to the game of football. If he loses this one, but I'm gonna go with the Broncos here. I think Melvin Gordon and I'm assuming Philip Lindsay's going to be back this week. I think that'll be enough on the ground for them to have some decent offense. And they still have they still got Jerry Jeudy there. They still got Noah Fant. They still have decent pieces that Driscoll or Bortles is able to throw to. So it's not like Sutton kind of puts them in a really tough situation. And the Jets defense is an absolute just mess. Their offense, I like Sam Darnold, man, but Gase coaches so poorly that he hurts that team all around. So until Gase is gone, I'm going to be picking the opponent of the Jets every single week.
Yeah, I think Jordan summed it up. The Jets are just like so pathetic and bad and terrible that if you don't pick the Broncos, you're really just a meathead.
Yeah.
So I don't really think I have to go too much into it.
Off of
like
Bean.
The Jets, off of Bean. The Jets suck, and until they don't, suck. Until they do something about it, until they fire Adam Gase, until they actually make some moves and get Sam Darnold some help, I'm going to pick against them every single week.
Yep.
That's all there is to be said about it.
Yeah, I agree. I've got Denver this week. Even with the injuries that they've got across the board, I think it's so hard to pick the Jets, no matter who they're playing. Yeah. So I've got Denver this week. A pretty easy pick. Next game up, starting off the 1:00 Sunday afternoon games, we've got the Indianapolis Colts at the Chicago Bears, who are 3-0. Tell me who saw that coming.
Yeah, and if the season had ended today, I believe the Bears would technically.
Yeah, they have the tiebreaker over the Packers for some odd reason.
Yeah, so you're right though. Whoever, no one predicted the Bears, being up here. One of the interesting things is, Nick Foles comes and just. Classic Nick Foles leads them, come back against the Falcons. Trubisky gets sat. Kind of what a lot of people I don't think Bears fans were expecting, but I think a lot of the NFL was kind of thinking, like, why is Foles, not playing? this could be an interesting game. I think it's going to be close, honestly. The Colts obliterated the Jets last week, so you can't really use last week for the Colts because it's like they did what they expected to do. But I think it's going to be interesting. The Bears offense with Allen Robinson and David Montgomery with Nick Foles should, produce at least decently, and we saw that in their comeback against the Falcons. So I'm going to actually pick the Bears here, but I think it's going to be a down to the wire game, honestly, just like Atlanta. Not in the sense that they're going to have to come back, but in the sense that this final score will be close.
Yeah, I'm going to roll with Jordan there. I think I only got 3 words: Big Dick Nick. The Bears, the Bears actually, they've been good this year. Like, obviously, they started 3-0. Obviously, they've been doing something right. But
yeah.
I feel like I'm more confident about Nick Foles' ability to at least manage this game. I'm not expecting him to throw for 3 touchdowns every game, obviously, but I don't think he's going to have a Mitch Trubisky game and go 18 for 40 or something like that. I think that he'll be able to manage the game, put them in position to win, along with the help of the defense. And I think conversely that Phillip Rivers is probably going to shit his pants again, which I think Graham's probably going to be with me on that one. I don't really think that Phillip Rivers and Jonathan Taylor and T.Y. Hilton, blah, blah, I don't really think they're going to get much going against this Bears defense. They've been pretty stout this year.
Yeah,
even their opponents have been great. So I'm going to pick the Bears. I think it could be a close one, but it could also get ugly if Phillip Rivers has one of those games that we all know that he has a couple of them every couple of weeks per year. So, yeah, we'll see. I'll go with the Bears.
I think this game has the potential to get ugly one way or the other because on one hand, Phillip Rivers could just be garbage and throw 500 pick sixes. But on the other hand, Nick Foles could do the same thing. And each team is so boom or bust on offense that it's so hard to be secure in your pick one way or the other. But what would this podcast be if I wasn't shitting on Phillip Rivers? Absolutely nothing. I don't know who expected me to be wearing a Chicago Bears jersey and pick for the Colts this week. So I'll make it my lock of the week. The Bears are winning.
I think as Patriots fans, we've all learned never pick against Nick Foles.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. So I've got a hot take on that. I think I may have mentioned it earlier, but it's been a while since I've mentioned it, if I ever have. So real quick thoughts before we go into the next game. I would have sacrificed the Super Bowl 51 win if we had won Super Bowl 52.
Ooh.
Because I think that the Super Bowl 52 team was the most complete team that we've ever had. We had a healthy backfield. We had a healthy Julian Edelman, a healthy Rob Gronkowski. We had one of the better.
That was the year we didn't have Edelman.
Are you sure?
Against the Eagles, yeah.
Okay.
Remember he towards ACL?
Maybe not.
So, yeah.
But I
still,
feel like I think that it was most.
I think that was the most complete team that we've had since the undefeated season, and I think that was the year that we beat the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game that year, right?
Yeah.
Or was that
that
was
against the Rams?
Against the
Titans of the Jaguars, right?
It was the Jags, yeah. That
Jaguars,
AFC Championship game was great.
That was a great game too.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the storyline of us winning that game would have been way better than the Super Bowl 51 win, despite the comeback. If you take the win at face value, not counting in 28-3, I think that I would much rather, and you count the fact that we would have back-to-back with 52 and 53. I would have rather had that one. I think completely honest.
I think that given the way that 51 was going before the comeback started, I think that the loss that would have been less painful than losing 52 the way that you did.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And not to mention Matt Ryan being the MVP. So it would have lessened the blow a bit in terms of what type of response Patriots fans got, because now you've got the weight of Nick Foles coming in, filling in for Carson Wentz, and then beating Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, compared to maybe MVP Matt Ryan having the best season of his career, in that, ridiculous Falcons offense.
Yeah.
That year, beating the Patriots up. So I think Graham's right in that sense. It's tough because to try to take the comeback out of it is a little bit hard because it's still in your mind,
Right.
But Yeah, I mean, back to back to end Brady's. Well, I guess he wouldn't end it because he would have still lost to the Titans. But I agree that the back to back would have looked nice. And the way that Eagles game ended is, that's
Horrible.
one of the most heartbreaking
The
losses
Falcons
ever.
might have been a dynasty if they didn't lose 51. Maybe they would have actually continued to be one of the greatest offenses ever, and not just.
True.
They probably wouldn't be 0-3 right now if they didn't lose that game.
Correct. Speaking of teams that are just barely not, well, 0-3 teams. We can go into 0-3 teams. Minnesota Vikings and Houston Texans. Both of them 0-3.
A toilet bowl.
Exactly. Seeking to avoid 0-4. I would just like to say, number one, I knew the Texans would be this bad this year. People thought that they were going to be all right. I was having none of it. I thought they were going to be horrible from the jump. And then the Vikings, I thought that they would be okay, but this is like my expectations were low, but holy fuck, like they're horrible.
And to go off of that, these are both two teams that I would say in general, I know you just said that the Texans you didn't think were going to be that good, but in general, the NFL, analysts and
they've been good for a while.
Yeah, definitely expected more from both of these teams, I would say. To not start 0-3. I don't think anyone – I mean, I guess you could maybe say the Texans because they had a tough start to the season. The Vikings in general, there were people that had them going 3-0, you know what I mean? So this is a bit of I think this could be a good game. It's one of the games where you think 0-3, like what – it's not going to be good. But there's a lot of talent on both sides, especially Justin Jefferson kind of appearing out of nowhere last week to go off and kind of pull like a vintage Stephon Diggs. I think I'm gonna stick with the Vikings here. I agree with Graham. The Texans just look. I think Watson is still an elite quarterback, but their offense with David Johnson, Brandon Cooks, it's just not enough for me to pick them against the Vikings, who I think are going to win a lot of games just scoring a shit ton of points because the defense on the Viking side is looking very bad right now. And I think that they're going to be able to win nearly every one of their games. I think will be them just outscoring by their opponent by 1 or 2 in like a very high scoring game, because that three-headed monster of Cousins, Cook, and Thielen can still put up a lot of points. And if you add Jefferson into the mix, I think that they're going to be able to beat teams eventually. And the Texans don't scare me on defense, so I'm going to go with the Vikings.
Yeah, I got to agree with Jordan there. It's kind of weird, I think, seeing that the Vikings are relying on their offense now because they've been a team for the past better half of like the later, the better half, like the later half of the decade. You know what I mean? Yeah, they've been a defensive-minded team. That's kind of Mike Zimmer's forte. And to see them transition into an offensive team relying on Kirk Cousins, who's not the most consistent quarterback, is kind of tough. But at the same time, on the other side of the ball, across the sideline, the Texans just look terrible. Like, I don't think Deshaun Watson's thrown for 300 yards yet. He's played some good defenses, but he can't get anything going. And when you have Will Fuller and Randall Cobb and Kenny Stills and Brandon Cooks, I almost forgot his name because he doesn't do anything anymore. When you have those guys, and that might be like the most injury-prone receiving corps maybe ever, they're not going to get a lot going. And their lead back, I think, is Duke Johnson Jr., who
David Johnson.
David Johnson. I forgot about David Johnson too. He didn't do anything.
But I mean, he is.
Even still, like behind that O-line, behind that struggling offense, like everything going on with that team. This past offseason was very tumultuous for them. Trading DeAndre Hopkins, there's speculation of a lot of inner conflict going on there. I think they're just a mess on and off the field. So I think the Vikings are going to win this game. It's going to be hard fought. I think they're going to really play their heart out, but the Vikings should just take it based on talent alone. The Texans really shouldn't be able to compete with them at all. So Vikings by 2 scores probably.
I don't like how much we're agreeing on this episode, but it's so hard because the Vikings are somehow the underdog in this game. So I'm going to make them my upset of the week because I think there's no way the Texans can pull this out. They just can't hang with the Vikings offense when it's clicking. Now, if the Vikings have another game like they did against Indianapolis, where they put up 11 points, then maybe, but I don't see it happening. I think that the Vikings have got this one in the bag. moving onward to a game that may have a little bit more disparity. We've got the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, I think this will definitely have disparity in it. The Jags disappointed all of us when they just completely shit the bed on Thursday. That was a sweep right there. And last week we were kind of talking the same way we're talking about this Thursday night game. Like, how can you pick with the Jets? How can you pick with the Dolphins? Meanwhile, Ryan Fitzpatrick comes in and toasts the Jags defense. But this is a interesting matchup because you've got Jacksonville coming off a pretty bad loss. Minshew didn't look too good at all. Looked poor, honestly. Mm-hmm. Joe Burrow is still continuing to grow, but his offensive line is getting him whacked. I don't know if anyone saw the Malik Jackson hit, but
I did.
Yeah, he's struggling back there. But I'm gonna go with the Bengals this week. Unfortunately, it's not. I thought they were maybe going to be the underdog, but they aren't. So it's not going to be my upset of the week. But I think Tyler Boyd last week showed his connection with Joe Burrow. AJ Green's still fine. Getting his feet wet because he hasn't been around.
Give him time.
Yeah, exactly. And Tyler Boyd stepped up well. He had a 100+ yard week, and Joe Mixon still got the talent. People can say what they want about how he hasn't looked good, but he still has elite talent in the league. I mean, he's still a top tier running back. So I'd like to think he eventually finds his way, and it may be against this week against Jacksonville. So I'm going to go with the Bengals.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Bengals too.
I mean, it's hard. It's hard to like. I mean, you could make an argument for both teams. I shouldn't say it's hard.
I'm kind of like, I came back down to earth from the Minshew mania last week after they lost to the Dolphins and Ryan Fitzpatrick, and oddly enough, I think this is a game that has potential to be a shootout, just because both defenses really aren't that good, even though these are two of the more like lackluster offenses in the league. I mean, I guess numbers-wise they're not, but teams-wise they're really not up there. So I just think the Bengals are going to be able to put more together because the Jaguars really don't have anything on the defensive side of the ball to stop the pass or the run game. So if the Bengals can get Joe Mixon going and then start passing the ball, the Jaguars really won't have anything to counter that. And I think the Bengals might be able to get a couple turnovers. Minshew was kind of sloppy last week against a Miami defense that is it's okay, but it's in the mid-tier, I'd say. It's in like the 10 to 20 range, but I don't think Minshew is going to come back and have like a 4-touchdown, 300-yard game. I just think he's going to get outplayed by Joe Burrow, so I'm picking the Bengals. I think it should be pretty easy too.
I think that, first of all, let me just preface this by saying that I had originally picked Cincinnati, but I can't let it happen. I can't let us all agree on the first 4 games. And so this was an okay one for me to switch up on because I had picked the Jaguars against the spread in the first place, which is Cincinnati -3.5. So I'll just go ahead and say that Jacksonville will win outright because, number one, if we look at the Cincinnati Bengals the last couple of games, when they play a good running back, they just can't do anything about it. Like Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb ran all over them 2 weeks ago on Thursday night.
And
James Robinson, he went crazy last week, and he should be able to replicate it. And then I think if Gardner Minshew can become a game manager and throw when he has to, he can do that. Like when he went 19 for 20 the other week, he can be a game manager if he's put in that position. So I thought this game would be close in the first place, but for the sake of argument, I'll pick Jacksonville. But like you guys both said, there's an argument to be made for both teams.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then moving on, this one might not be we might be back to the agreement with this one. We've got Cleveland at Dallas. This should be a pretty good game, to be honest with you, but
has potential.
Exactly.
It definitely should be. I mean, Cleveland has surprised me. I know that they're
not me.
Yeah, I know.
That's true. Graham has been very high on Cleveland.
But and they were very high. Everyone was high on them last year generally.
Yeah, and then
that Chubb Hunt two-headed monster this year has looked fantastic. Landry, OBJ, obviously there's a lot of talent there. Their defense is holding up to an extent. And Baker still has a lot of kinks to work out, honestly. He missed OBJ on like a deep route last week, and OBJ kind of had to play defense and knock it out of the defense.
Oh, yeah, I saw that, yeah.
So, that can't happen if they really want to compete in the AFC because, you've got teams like Chiefs, Ravens, even the Patriots, who just are just going to capitalize on that stuff. But I mean, they've looked good, and like you said, Graham, this should be a decent game. Dallas has obviously looked good as well. They're coming off, unfortunately, a loss against the Seahawks, where it was a down to the wire great game. But
Yeah.
I think I'm going to stick with the same notion that I said last week. It's hard to pick against Dallas when they're facing a subpar team. I would call Cleveland maybe average, a little bit above average, but Dallas has so much talent. You don't expect Zeke to have a poor week like Graham had mentioned before the podcast. We were talking about it. He had a pretty bad week. You don't expect him to repeat that. And the receiving core is just top cream of the crop, just top of the NFL in terms of talent. So I'm gonna go Dallas by a couple touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you, Jordan. This isn't really a knock on Cleveland. I think it's more like they're kind of expected to lose this game. I feel like obviously they're not, the Cowboys are favored, but Cleveland's positive in terms of their record for the first time since I don't know when. It's been like a very long time. It's been like years, forever. Yeah, basically forever. And the Cowboys took a hard loss last week to Seattle last second, so they're going to come out this week and obviously come out firing. They're going to be pissed off and everything. So the Cowboys are probably going to lay it on them offensively. And I don't think the Browns are going to be able to keep up without making a couple mistakes along the way, especially in terms of Baker Mayfield. Their run game is outstanding. It's best in the league. But you're going to have to pass to keep up with the Cowboys offense. And I don't trust Baker Mayfield. I don't think he has a connection. He really doesn't have a good connection with OBJ. Despite,
which is surprising.
Yeah, I don't know how you really can. If Eli Manning could have one, I don't know how you can't have one. But yeah, they really just don't have a good report, so I don't trust that offense completely yet in terms of passing. So I got to go with the Cowboys here.
I would just like to say, for the fact that Jordan has ridiculed me for being so high on the Cowboys this season, it's tough talk coming from someone who's picked the Cowboys in 4 straight weeks. So
let me be clear.
That's all I'm saying on that.
Let me be clear. I think the Cowboys are the definition of a regular season team. So I could pick the Cowboys in every single game, but I still won't pick them in the divisional round.
In a playoff game.
Yeah, so I think here's my thing. It's hard to pick against that amount of talent against teams like the Browns, you're right. I picked them against the Seahawks last week. But Dak Prescott has
one game. Yeah.
Prescott has proven me wrong. I was someone who thought Wentz was better than Prescott before the season started. That question's been answered. So
I did too.
So Prescott has proven me wrong, and that's completely flipped my stance on the Cowboys. I mean, I still don't know how well they'll do in the playoffs because every year people think they're going to do well, and they don't, end up getting to the Super Bowl. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't think. First of all, let me go ahead and say I think Dallas will win this game pretty handily. I think that it'll be a shootout. Mm-hmm. And honestly, there's a chance that Dallas loses this game because Dak hasn't shown that he can win a shootout very frequently. It happened last week, and it happened against the Falcons. They did win that game, but that was more of a product of the Falcons horribly managing that game. We've already gone into that.
We've heard that before.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll hear about it again in a little bit. But I think that there's a chance that Cleveland can just straight up outscore just because they have that ability to do that on any given night if they want to. They just haven't wanted to so far. But I am not – my predictions for Dallas in the regular season have taken a little bit of a hit simply because of the injuries that they sustained on the defensive side of the ball. I don't know how they're going to be able to fare against some teams in the heart of their schedule with the lineup that they have right now. That being said, I think that with their linebacking group being healthy again come playoff time, I think that they still have the potential to make a run because right now the losses of Van Der Esch and Sean Lee hurt pretty freaking bad, but they should be good to go by playoff time. So I'm not worried in terms of that yet, but they might not go 13-3 like I had said they would. So that being said, going on to another team that has potential to disappoint, the 1-2 New Orleans Saints at the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I had the Saints making the Super Bowl at the beginning of the season. I think there's still people still need to. The jury's still out on them, considering Michael Thomas hasn't played the past couple of games. So I mean that's pretty significant. But yeah, Drew Brees got outshot by Aaron Rodgers on Sunday night. There's
we all
question
said that he would.
marks. Yeah, there's question marks around whether he is still Drew Brees, and that's definitely detrimental to them if he's just an average quarterback. Are they still a decent team and are they still an above-average team in the NFL? Yes, because they still got Alvin Kamara, who's one of the best running backs in the league, and then Michael Thomas coming back, one of the best receivers. But that being said, I'm still going to pick New Orleans this week. I think this could be one of the upsets if you're going to pick one, because like we talked about at the beginning, Matthew Stafford had a pretty good game last week beating the Cardinals. But it's again, I think New Orleans, this is kind of a do or die situation for New Orleans right here. This is a game where you're expected to win. You're 1-2. You can't go to 1-3. Get back to 500. Get Michael Thomas back, and then start over. So I can't see Drew Brees and Sean Payton losing this game. So I'm going to go with New Orleans.
Yeah, I'm going to go with you too, Jordan. Jordan, I think.
Damn.
There'll be a game. There'll be a game we disagree on. I guarantee it.
Will there though?
There will be.
I don't know. I'm not high on the Saints at all, and I like the Lions, so I might flip-flop. But to talk about this game a little bit, obviously the Saints, I don't really fault them for losing last week because Green Bay, I think, has them outmatched generally, even though they're both without their number one receivers in Adams for Green Bay and Thomas for New Orleans. Obviously, the Saints have Alvin Kamara, who solidified himself as a top 3 back, I think, in football with his performance this past week. He's just incredible. That touchdown run he had, like that 50-yard pass, was ridiculous. But that being said, the Saints team does not look good on the defensive side of the ball at all. They put up 30 points in 2 straight weeks, and they put up 24 in week 1 to the Buccaneers, who weren't really performing well at all at the time. And the Lions, I think, are kind of finding their groove offensively. They just took down the Cardinals, who, granted, Kyler Murray had like a mistake-riddled game. He threw 3 picks. I think there was a fumble somewhere in there with somebody. But now they have Kenny Golladay back. I think their offense is going to be clicking a little bit more. But all that being said, I think that the Saints are just a better team overall than the Lions. So I got to go with the Saints. Hopefully Drew Brees can actually prove me wrong in saying that he's washed up and have a good performance. But if they lose this game, I think they're done. I think it's wraps.
Graham, before you go, I just want to jump in. And you made a good point, Pat, because you said that Aaron Rodgers, and I kind of forgot to mention this, but yeah, Aaron Rodgers without Devontae Adams, he was able to go to Lazard and kind of find that connection. That's something Drew Brees hasn't done yet with one of his receivers.
Right.
So it's like, so I was about to touch on that when I talked about this game. And last week, I picked the Packers because I said that the Saints were scared to feed Alvin Kamara, and they were not scared to feed him at all this past week. So I don't fault Drew Brees for not trying to make connections with his receivers because he has one of the best all-around backs in the game at his disposal. So I can't really fault him for not trying to go to Tommy Lee Lewis or whoever the hell he's got over there, Emmanuel Sanders. I can't really fault him for not trying to go to them because he has Alvin Kamara. Yeah, Traquan Smith.
But you would agree that the lack of a passing game and Sunday night lost them that game.
Oh, I will say another thing though. I think that what lost them that game towards the end was they gave the ball to Taysom Hill, and he essentially fumbled the game away. He gave the Packers
that was stupid.
Down and score. If he didn't fumble, it really could have gone the other way. So I mean, you can point that out in every game and say it comes down to one play, but to fault Drew Brees entirely is kind of
I should correct myself. I mean, Drew Brees had a very good night. He threw for 3 touchdowns. The only thing I would say is that I think the downfield game hasn't always been a strength of his, but I think in general right now we are looking for like anyone other than Alvin Kamara. Like if you just push Alvin Kamara to the side, which is hard to do, obviously, but there really hasn't been. Jared Cook hasn't impressed at all. Emmanuel Sanders was kind of expected to come in and like do pretty. I mean, not fill Michael Thomas's shoes, but like be the top target for Drew Brees, and he's still kind of going down to those checkdowns for Kamara, which isn't a bad thing, but it can also come back to bite you, later on in the season.
And I agree with all of that. And to be honest, I can't really fault the Saints for that loss too terribly much because the Packers look incredible and they hung tight with them for the entire game. So the Saints, in my mind, are still one of the top teams in the NFC. They just had a couple losses. They're one of the top teams in the league, in my opinion. Still, I'd say top 6, maybe a little bit lower, but that's up for debate.
Definitely top 10.
Yeah, definitely top 10. I'm going to take them again this week simply because I don't think the Lions match up on the defensive side of the ball. I don't think they have anybody who can tackle Alvin Kamara in open space. And I'm not sure when Michael Thomas is coming back, but Jeff Okudah has not looked particularly great this season. And he got torched by Devontae Adams multiple times. And obviously the Saints don't have anybody
Got a
if
pick
they don't
last
have
week,
Michael
though.
Thomas. Yeah, he did. I'll give him that. But Kyler Murray also was not playing his best game. So all of that being said, this has the potential to be a close game if the Saints keep underperforming like they have so far, but I'm going to pick them again this week.
Yeah.
This one should have a little bit of contest, if you can put it that way, in our predictions. We've got the 3-0 Pittsburgh Steelers at the 3-0 Tennessee Titans. If this game actually ends up getting played.
Yeah, that's a big if.
True.
Considering
COVID,
we don't know. Yeah, we don't know.
Titans.
I'm looking on. This is candid, but I'm looking on Bovada to make sure who I'm picking for underdogs and shit. But they took the game off of Vegas. Completely took the game off of.
Really?
Yeah, I saw that earlier on Twitter. I guess they took both of the Steelers and Titans game off of just because they don't know what's going to happen with it. I don't know who. I'm assuming the Titans are favored.
No, the Titans are 1.5-point dogs at home.
Okay, so they are. So Steelers are underdogs.
No, the Steelers are favored by a point and a
Steelers are
half on the
favored.
road.
Oh, okay. So but like you said, this is going to be this could have some disparity to it. I'm on that Steelers bandwagon. I was on it a couple weeks ago when I locked them in against the Broncos. And I think again they prove their worth. I think Roethlisberger proves that he's not done yet. Deontay Johnson's still a question mark. He got a concussion. He got out. He was eliminated from the game with a concussion, so I'm not sure if he's back next week. But I think Juju can hold his own. And their run game, James Conner's starting to step up again. So they still got that trio that you look for in great NFL teams. Kind of like a poor man's AB Roethlisberger Bell, but it's working decently. So I'm gonna go with the Steelers. And I've said before I'm not too high on the Titans, so I'm not gonna be picking the Titans a lot this season. But yeah, I'm gonna go with the Steelers.
Surprise, surprise! I'm gonna go with Jordan, and I'm gonna pick the Steelers. I think that the Steelers are gonna kind of carve up this Titans secondary. Their passing attack, I think, has gotten better week by week. Big Ben's getting more comfortable. A couple weeks ago, he said he felt like he was in a car crash. Yesterday, it was like he was falling off a bike. So he's getting better. And the run game's been all right. The passing game's been, I think, like I said, it's getting better. I don't think the Titans really have the weapons in the secondary to slow that down. On the other side of the ball for Pittsburgh, their run defense has been amazing. Like yesterday, 2 days ago, I'm drawing a blank completely on who they played, but they absolutely shut down the run game, and that's after holding Saquon Barkley to 5 yards on 16 carries.
The Texans.
The Texans, yeah, they shut down David Johnson. And so if they can just shut down Derrick Henry, like at least to some degree, he's obviously going to get the ball a lot. The Titans are still going to feed him. I think their secondary can hold up against Ryan Tannehill. I'm not really a big believer in Ryan Tannehill at all. Never have been. I don't think he's going to be able to lead them to victory over this light version of the Steel Curtain. Not at all a Steel Curtain, but it's like a very, very, very baby version. It's like the Great Value brand that they have at Stop and Shop. So I'm going to go with the Steelers. I think they're just on both sides of the ball. I think they're just better. I think they're starting to click. I think they're dangerous in the AFC. I think the Steelers are going to cover. I think they're going to win.
I don't think the Steelers are dangerous at all.
Mm.
Think about who they played so far this season. They played the New York Giants, the Houston Texans, and the Denver Broncos, who are a combined 1-8. So, like, you can't really say too much about what they've done. And I'm not impressed with Big Ben because the teams that he played have not very strong secondaries, save for the Denver Broncos, but they won that game in a pretty low-scoring affair. So, like, Ben Roethlisberger has done about what I expected him to do in terms of his individual performance. They squeaked out a couple wins that I didn't expect him to do. They expect him to come away with. But I think that, first of all, fuck Malcolm Butler. He's trash. But the Titans have a decent safety tandem, as I mentioned last week or a couple weeks ago. I can't particularly remember. But I trust in Ryan Tannehill. I don't see where you're coming from with that, Pat. I think that save for the Monday night game against Denver, week 1, he's played really well.
It's blind
Given that,
I'll admit.
given the fact that the Vikings and the Jags don't have the best defenses in the world, but he's put up 30 points in the past 2 weeks. So I don't see where you
Gostkowski
can
put up
really.
18 of those points last week, though.
He's still okay. Okay, fine. Fine. But their offense is putting up
He
points.
still threw for
That's what I'm
300
saying.
yards, so I'll give it to him.
Yeah, exactly. So, and
He doesn't have AJ
Derrick
Brown.
Henry, I think we can all, yeah, true that. And I think we can all agree Derrick Henry is not playing his best football, and he still is leading the league in rushing.
Wait till November comes. Nobody's going to want to play the Titans.
Exactly. He's averaging over 100 yards a game, and he's not even playing that well. So I think you've got to go with Tennessee here. That's my pick. And then
Little does Graham know that Jordan and I texted before this to agree on every single thing.
well,
if we do, I'll be surprised. I'll say that.
There's no way Jordan can pull ahead this week.
I'm honestly not going to be surprised if you guys agree on every game this week, simply because these games are so painfully easy to pick in my opinion.
But my upset. Yeah, I still have not picked my upset.
Oh, okay. That's fair.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's coming with this one. You've got the Seattle Seahawks at the Miami Dolphins. This conversation should take, as Jordan smirks, this conversation should take about all of 45 seconds.
Yeah, I literally have nothing to say on this game. I mean, there's no one in their right mind picks Miami any week, honestly, but specifically this week against the best team in the NFL at this point. Russell Wilson's looking unstoppable. Even without Chris Carson, they're going to run him over. You can pick them by 17, 21, 28. I don't care. They're winning the game.
Remember the Miami Massacre last year the Patriots had? I think it's going to be worse. Who's going to stop DK Metcalf?
That's fair. Well, it's himself, not running into the end zone.
Couldn't stop him, then no one's going to stop him. And they also have Tyler Lockett, who was on Stafford and Matthews this week. If you listen to it, check it out. Very excited. But I mean, Dolphins are going to get destroyed. Like, I don't even want to watch. It's going to be ugly to watch. Yeah.
I'm going to watch it because I have Russell Wilson on my fantasy team.
Oh, lucky you.
Well,
oh my God. Okay.
Reaping the rewards.
So I know that nobody cares about my fantasy team, but I'm going to talk about it anyway because I went into Monday Night Football this past week up by 19 points, and all he had left was Marquise Brown, and I was sweating because I thought that the Ravens were about to go off. And then Marquise Brown did nothing. I won
3 points, didn't he?
Yeah, 3.3.
Jack shit.
Yep.
Nothing.
Meanwhile,
3-0.
My fantasy team is 0-3 because Mark Ingram sucks. Clyde Edwards-Helaire just didn't get me enough points. I'm not happy about it, but go ahead, Graham. I'm sorry.
All right, that's tough. All I have to say on that, just be good. Los Angeles Chargers at Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This one should also not take very long. But Justin Herbert, I mean.
I see Jordan rubbing. Jordan's going to pick this as an upset, isn't he?
Oh, God. All right, go ahead, Jordan.
Pat is correct. This is why I was saying I don't think that we're gonna agree on everything. We have to have some disparity here. And this was a game I was looking at. I'm looking through. I'm thinking, which game should I pick as the upset? This is a game I think Justin Herbert can come in and prove that he is a rising quarterback in this league, defeat the reigning GOAT, and just prove himself in this tough matchup against the Buccaneers. Now, am what I put my house on it? No. Would I put $10 on it? No. But but I think there is a significant chance that the Chargers come in and beat the Buccaneers. One, Chris Godwin with his hamstring, he's questionable for next week. So especially if he doesn't play, limits their passing attack considerably. Yeah. The Chargers defense still, we say it every single week, I feel like is no joke. And Tom Brady against a tough defense this early on in the season, I think can be a recipe for disaster. And not to mention, I think that the running game of the Buccaneers is the fakest running game in the entire league. People expecting Fournette to come in from coming off his hot week and push 100 yards again. He gets like 7 carries and doesn't do anything. Ronald Jones has been a joke for a while. They don't have a running game. I think without Chris Godwin being there, their passing game is limited. And I think that the Chargers rushing attack with Kelly and Eckler is going to be able to dismantle that front seven of the Buccaneers. Now, I know it's kind of out of the bag, and like I'm going to get clowned for it especially if the Buccaneers just blow them out. But I think that the Chargers offense is severely underrated, and that they are going to be able to compete with the Buccaneers because that defense can also hold their own and stop Tom Brady to an extent. So I'm going to go Chargers. It's going to be a close one. It could be a game-winning field goal, but that's my upset of the week.
Wow, bro, that's crazy.
Jordan's like almost winning me over. I can see what he's saying. That being said, I'm still going to pick the Buccaneers. I think if they can perform well enough against the Broncos defense in Denver, they can perform against this Chargers defense at home.
I would make the argument though that I think the Chargers defense, but with the Broncos injuries, I think the Chargers defense is better.
I'd agree, but I think it's like kind of close. Like
It is pretty close.
Um,
I'd say that.
But I'd also say that the Buccaneers offense, I think, is just going to get better and better as the weeks go on. This week, I think, was their best week thus far. And despite, I think, Chris Godwin probably going to be out this week, which kills my 0-3 fantasy team even more, I think they're just still going to be able to outplay the Chargers. Justin Herbert's young. He's played well so far. He's put up yards. He's coming off a loss to the Panthers. I just don't think that they'll be able to keep up with Brady in this offense that I think is really going to get its wheels. I want to give the Chargers credit. I think they're a good young team. They have a great defense. I love Justin Herbert. I think he has really great potential, but I don't really see them being able to take down an experienced team with a bunch of veterans like the Buccaneers. So I'm going to go with Buccaneers.
So here's why I think that you're out of your mind, Jordan. I think, first of all, Ronald Jones hasn't been that bad. He averaged over 4 yards a carry this past week, which in an offense that turned to an air raid, like Brady had almost 300 yards. He had 297 this past week. I don't think you can really fault him too much for that. Also, you're saying that you think that the Chargers will be able to come in and rip up the Broncos front seven, or not the Broncos, the Buccaneers front seven in the run game. Number one, the Buccaneers have one of the best front sevens in the entire league.
One of the best defenses. I agree. In my opinion. I think
their secondary is highly questionable. Not to go all Dan Levitard on you, but highly questionable. But their run defense particularly is very, very stout. The only Broncos player this past week that had over 4 yards per carry was Jeff Driscoll.
Had a baby.
So that tells you about all you need to know. Melvin Gordon had 8 carries, only 26 yards. Good job, Pat.
Damn it, I hope you didn't see that.
So you have to go with Tampa Bay. I think that they're getting, like Pat said, they're getting better week by week, and I don't know how you can pick against them. Speaking of teams that I thought you couldn't pick against them, Baltimore Ravens did not play too well this past week. They were my lock, and that did not turn out too well. But they've got a potential for a rebound this week against the Washington football team.
Yeah, I think that rebound is almost guaranteed. I don't see. Like you look, we all now people are starting to question the Ravens defense, which I can understand because you expect them to play fairly well against an elite quarterback. We also have to understand that's the best quarterback in the league by far. And to really to question the Ravens defense in a sense of like, well, can Dwayne Patrick Mahomes? I think he's established himself as the best quarterback.
No, he and Russ are close.
You can. I think you can definitely say that. But I think to question whether like Dwayne Haskins can outscore Lamar Jackson against it's just ridiculous. Like we can't get into that territory. I don't think you guys are going to get into that territory either. But I've seen it. People saying like, is this Ravens defense fake? Is it not going to be able to compete like last year? I mean, let's be honest. It's one loss against the best team in the AFC. Lamar Jackson's going to bounce back. They don't lose back-to-backs in Baltimore, and I think this is kind of a cold water loss for them. Like, look, you have another team that can beat you, and that is going to compete with you to the end. But yeah, Lamar's going to win, and I think he comes back with a great game.
Yeah, I mean, if you pick Washington in this game, you're off perk. Like, especially with the fact that one of their amazing D linemen, Matt, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that last name. Whatever. Ioannidis just tore his bicep, so he's out for the season.
Mm.
Dwayne Haskins is like just not good. Like this is such a wash of a game. It's obviously going to be the Baltimore Ravens. Yeah, I don't really have a whole lot to say. Lamar Jackson's probably going to have a great day. This is just a big morale boost, I think, for them. They're going to need it. They're not going to lose 2 games in a row, like Jordan said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. But here's why I might keep an eye on this game.
Oh my God.
Because no. I'm picking the Ravens. But
Okay.
I think that there is a chance that the Ravens go up by so much and Dwayne Haskins plays so poorly that the Redskins put in Alex Smith for the first time since 2018 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I would love to see that, but there's no way that they win. So
Yeah.
it's the Ravens.
I would like to see that. I feel really. I'm surprised Alex Smith is even still playing.
Yeah. For real.
Remarkable.
And before we move on quickly, Lance Thomas, the tight end for the Redskins, he's been
That's my guy right there.
At least
He's
in the
giving more
fantasy
points, Jordan.
in the fantasy news, he's been. I have him in another league, and I'm expecting from him too. But I think he's now on pace for
Is it
somewhere
Lance
around
Thomas or Logan Thomas?
Logan Thomas.
Lance
Logan,
was
you're right.
that's my
that
freaking
forward
guy.
for the Knicks.
Yeah. He's somewhere on pace for like 150, 160 targets this season. And the guy just cannot get a decent quarterback throwing balls. He's getting targeted like 10 times a game, and he's getting like 4 receptions for like 30 yards. It's sad because Haskins is just overthrowing him, and there's like wasted talent right now. But I thought that was interesting that you've got a tight end who's on pace for 150 plus targets this year.
With probably like 60 receptions.
Yeah, like it's
Because of how
insane.
bad.
It's crazy. But yeah, I just wanted to leave it at that.
Logan Thomas has one of the best stories in the NFL because he was a above average quarterback at Virginia Tech, which is why he's my guy because I've always been a Hokie supporter. My dad grew up like near there, so family ties. And then he transitions to become a tight end when he goes to the NFL. He bounced around a while between Buffalo, Detroit, maybe a couple other teams. He produced, but not too terribly much. And then now he's found a spot in Washington, and he's doing pretty well. So I like to see him succeed. Going to Ron Rivera's former team, he's with Washington now. Now you got the Panthers at home against the Arizona Cardinals coming off a loss.
Looking at the spread for this game, to me, it really shouldn't be this close, in my opinion. I think the Cardinals have proven that they're going to be a great team for the rest of the year. Yeah, they had a bad loss last week, but the Panthers, if you're picking the Panthers, you're relying on Teddy Bridgewater and DJ Moore, theoretically. And I just can't push myself to do that until they get CMC back. There's just not many outlets for me to pick the Panthers against any reasonable team. So I don't have much to say on this. I think it's going to be a pretty easy win for Kyler and the Cardinals.
Yeah, I'm tempted to choose this as my upset of the week just because they got the win last week against a good Chargers team, like a decent Chargers team.
Yeah.
But I think that after their performance last week, the Cardinals are going to be out for blood this week. And the Panthers, like Teddy Bridgewater is not going to outduel Kyler Murray. Like, he didn't outduel Justin Herbert, so he's not going to outduel Kyler Murray. And the Panthers defense really isn't anything to write home about. So the Cardinals should take this one easily, I think, in a great offensive showing. A big bounce back performance, I think, for Kyler Murray.
I agree. I'm going to go with the Cardinals. I don't think there's much that can be said about it. The Panthers don't have anybody on defense that can keep up with DeAndre Hopkins and Larry Fitzgerald and Christian Cook and Kenyon Drake and Andy Isabella. So the only way that I could see the Panthers maybe pulling off an upset, and actually it's not too far-fetched because the Cardinals' offensive line there's no secret about it. They're bad. They're just bad. And the Panthers have one of the most underrated front fours in the NFL. They have a pass rush. You got to give them that much at the very least. So if they can make Kyler get on his back in the backfield, sack him a couple times, they have a chance. But I don't see a McCaffrey-less Panthers offense being able to take advantage of Cardinals defense. So I'm going to go with Arizona in this one. Another game that shouldn't be too terribly close is the Giants at the Rams.
Yeah, I'm going Rams here. I've been pretty high on Goff. I picked the Rams last week to beat the Bills in my upset. Fortunately, that didn't happen, but I did state.
I told you it was going to happen.
No, but I did state in the middle of the podcast that Goff is going to rip apart that Bills
That's
defense,
fair.
and he
did
did
say
rip
that.
apart the Bills defense. But yeah, I was incorrect with that. Rams defense couldn't stop Allen from driving down the field the final seconds, but they will be able to stop Daniel Jones from driving more than 10 yards the entire game. So I'm picking the Rams to win pretty substantially.
Yeah, this is an easy one. I wouldn't have picked the Giants to be within 10 points if they were fully healthy, and they're not. So I think it's just going to be a blowout. The Rams have impressed. They almost made that comeback against Josh Allen and the Bills last week. I picked the Rams. I was kind of upset that they ended up coming up short, but it is what it is. The Giants might be up there for the worst team, or might be down there, I guess, for the worst team in football. MetLife Stadium's not a good place to be right now. Rams
They're
by
not there this week.
Rams by a ton. What did you say? They're in the Super Bowl?
No, I said luckily the Giants aren't there this week. They're in.
Oh yeah.
But the Rams, if they blow this game, Jared Goff deserves to lose all recognition he's gained over the last couple of weeks. So that Giants defense is just so bad. It's horrible. There's no way on earth that the Rams should lose this game.
Yep.
We're getting now into the more competitive games, I think you could say. We'll start off with the Buffalo Bills at the Las Vegas Raiders.
This is interesting one because you could almost say these are two teams that got exposed last week. Josh Allen still had a fantastic game, without a doubt, and he
MVP
still showed.
Dark Horse.
Dark Horse,
still showed
which
why,
I'm not surprised. Read my articles.
Why, like they just said that Allen's still that dark horse in the MVP race, but they were exposed in the sense that they almost lost I don't know what the lead was, 20-point lead. 14-point lead.
They were up by 25.
28-3.
They were up 28-3.
Yeah, so almost blew a considerable lead to the Rams. So the sense that the Bills are in the category of like,
well, they did blow it.
Yeah, but I mean, it's kind of pushed off to the side because they won. But to say that they're in the category of like the Chiefs and the Ravens is now not even a question. They showed that that defense is, there's some holes that they need to be filled. And the Raiders get exposed by the New England Patriots. Kind of what everyone expected, but their 2-0 start, 2-0 start, kind of got flushed out last week. So I'm going to go with the Bills here because I still think that the Bills aren't as fake as I think the Raiders are. I don't have any confidence in Derek Carr. Josh Jacobs is really that whole offense, in my opinion. Darren Waller has started off a bit slow. He had that big game in week 2, but at week 1 he was held in check. And week 3, the Patriots completely shut him down. So I think that there's too much weight on Jacobs against a really tough Bills defense all around. And I think Derek Carr makes a multitude of mistakes this week, whether it be, getting sacked or throwing picks or just fumbling in general. I think that they attack Derek Carr, blitz him, send everything at him. Bills defense takes this game and shows why they're still at the top of the league.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're right, Jordan, and that both teams kind of got exposed last week. In terms of the Raiders, they put up a good fight in the first half against the Pats. But second half, Pats just kind of put on the gas pedal and didn't look back. I kind of like this Raiders team, but like you were saying, Jordan, they really don't have the firepower or the capability to go up against this Bills defense and offense. I think Josh Allen is going to maybe not like pick apart necessarily, but he's going to be able to do damage against this Raiders secondary that's talented but also very young.
Yeah.
And they'll probably get the run game going a bit. And for the Raiders offensively, the Bills defense is still among the best in football, top 5 unit. So they're really just not going to be able to have a chance against this team unless they play absolutely perfect and everything goes right. I think the Bills are going to prove that they're, usually the Bills the past couple of years would start off 2-0, 3-0, and then they'd lose a game that's like maybe they should have won. But I think this year they're a little bit different. Josh Allen's going to continue his dark horse MVP campaign, and they're going to take this one with ease. I'm not worried about it if I'm a Bills fan.
Yeah, I wouldn't be either. The one thing I'll say is that Derek Carr didn't have a horrible game this past week against us. 2 touchdowns, no picks, 260-some yards. He only threw 8 incomplete passes. So against a pretty stout passing defense, or actually, I don't know if you can even call it that anymore. I don't know if our passing defense is what everybody expected it to be. We let Derek Carr
Has
throw all
looked like
over us. Yeah, exactly.
definitely hasn't looked like.
Yeah, for sure. And so I think that Derek Carr can still do damage, but I would say that Buffalo's secondary is right up there with ours, or at least on paper. So
Yeah.
I've got to pick the Bills. I was high on them coming into this year, and they've proven me right. I'm going to keep picking them until they prove me otherwise. I picked them all 4 weeks so far, so I'm going to keep going with it. Another one where, speaking of if the Patriots defense is everything it's touted to be, we're sure as hell going to find out this week when we go into Kansas City.
Yeah. So it's always tough with the Patriots games because I said this before the podcast. It's tough to pick against your own team in anything. So even if I hate even doing this pick because I'm going to pick the Patriots pretty much every week. I'm just going to flat out and say that. If they lose, they lose. If they win, they win. But I think that this game is people are having a little bit of recency bias with like how they dismantled the Ravens last night, and they're not remembering that they almost lost to the Herbert Chargers just a couple weeks ago. So I think that the Chiefs are a fantastic team, no matter, obviously it's not really, it's goes without saying, but they aren't some 3-0 powerhouse that has defeated every team by 20 plus points and who has shown no weaknesses. I think that there are definitely areas of their game that the Patriots can expose and that Belichick can expose. So I'm going to pick the Patriots. I don't have much valid reasoning behind why I'm picking the Patriots other than just emotionally that I want the Patriots to win. But a lot of the question marks that the Patriots had going into the season have been answered. But like Graham said, the factor in this game will be, can the defense hold up enough for Cam Newton to, produce? If Cam Newton is playing catch-up ball game like he played in the Seahawks game, look, we can tout Cam Newton as the top 10 quarterback in the league that we all think he is now, but you can't have him playing catch up every single week and expect to win games. So like Graham said, the defense has to prove why that they're still at top of the league. They've gotten exposed a couple weeks now, especially in the Seahawks game. You've got Russell Wilson and Mahomes who are very comparable in terms of talent. And if you have a week if the defense has a week in the Seahawks game, I don't think the Patriots are going to win. But I expect a bounce back game from Stephon Gilmore in the secondary. So I'm going to pick the Patriots to win in a close one.
The Patriots fan in me obviously wants to think that the Pats are going to win this game, and they obviously could, I think, given their performance against the Seahawks. But I bet against the Chiefs last week. I'm not going to do it again. You said, they haven't blown out every team by 20 points, but they took care of the Texans. They took care of the Ravens, who I really am not confident that we could beat the Ravens right now. So I feel like I almost have to go with the Chiefs in this one just by pure logic. I think we could make it competitive. Obviously, Cam Newton has looked great throwing the ball sometimes, but again, he only has 2 passing touchdowns on the year. He's done a lot with his legs, but the Chiefs are probably the most dynamic offense in the league today. They have so many weapons and everything, and this Patriots defense has not looked great against the pass. So the Chiefs, I think, just have us a little outmatched. They're just better. I think they're probably the best team in football. Them and the Seahawks, but I'm going to go with the Chiefs just because they're the reigning champions. So I'm going to pick the Chiefs in this one, but it has potential to be an upset for sure. The Patriots fan in me is always going to believe that we have a chance. So I'll go with the Chiefs. I think it's going to be a good game, though. Obviously, I'm hoping for the Patriots are going to win. I just don't see it happening this week.
Yeah, I don't either. I've got the Chiefs, and my main reasoning for that is because, number one, this is really the main reason. 100%, not even number one. 100%. The way that Mahomes played this past week against Baltimore was he either looked to go downfield or he got outside of the pocket and hit his receivers about 8 to 15 yards past the line of scrimmage in the middle of the field. And we don't have the athletic linebackers as we used to be able to contain Mahomes and defend that kind of scramble, move the ball down the field through the air that we used to. And Stephon Gilmore has not, number one, historically played very well against Tyreek Hill, and number two, played the level that he did last year so far this year as a whole. So I don't trust our secondary's ability to be able to defend the deep downfield passes. We got exposed by Russell Wilson, and Mahomes is playing at a similar level to Wilson well, Wilson is a league of his own right now, but Mahomes is obviously insane. And if we win this game, it's going to be a shootout. There's no way that we win this game if the under hits. Absolutely none. You can take that to the bank. But I think that if Cam can dismantle the secondary like he did against Seattle, then go ahead. We have a chance. But like you said, Jordan, a lot of his touchdowns this season have been, it might have been Pat, a lot of his touchdowns have been on the ground.
Mhm.
He's tied for the league lead in rushing touchdowns.
He has 4. There's like 5 guys with 4 touchdowns right now.
Yeah. He's tied with 4, and he only has 2 passing touchdowns, but that lack of passing touchdowns is because we haven't been a team to just take the top off the defense. We've been methodically driving down the field, picking up chunks at a time, and that's where those rushing touchdowns come into play. So I'm completely fine with that being the case. I don't need to see the numbers in the touchdowns to know that he's playing well as a passer. So, I mean, maybe if Cam Newton is able to absolutely destroy the Chiefs defense, then maybe we can win a shootout. But I just don't see it happening logically. I think that Mahomes is going to go insane like he still has been. They've won their last 12 games dating back to last season. I don't see that changing this week. That game probably should be a primetime game, but it's not. And I say that it probably should because the Sunday Night Football game, which we're about to get into, is going to be horrible in my opinion. You've got the 0-2-1 Philadelphia Eagles at the 2-1 San Francisco 49ers.
I've been a huge Carson Wentz guy from the beginning of the season. Like I had mentioned earlier, I thought he had the edge on Dak. I think injuries just slowed his career, unfortunately, but he really hasn't started the season great. Last week, though, I think he obviously ended in a tie, but I think he did bounce back and had a decent week. The interceptions is a big problem, though. He's making throws that he shouldn't make. But in general, I think the problem with him is that Doug Peterson wasn't letting him use his legs as much as he used to. And Wentz is a mobile quarterback. He can throw in the pocket, but he can also move around a little bit. I think you could compare him to kind of Patrick Mahomes, not in talent, but in the way he can move around in the pocket. He's not someone like Lamar who's going to scramble all around like a running back, but he can move pretty well. And he came back last week and rushed for 65 yards on 9 attempts and got the touchdown, and then got another passing touchdown as well, with 200 plus yards. So I think he's on the rise a bit, but this 49ers defense, even without Nick Bosa, is still a great defense. And for Wentz to struggle again to throw 200 yards against, and it took overtime theoretically to throw 200 yards against a Bengals defense that is nothing to ride home about, makes me a little bit worried that he's not going to be able to. This isn't the week he takes it to the next level. This is a week where he kind of falls back a bit, I think. But yeah, like Graham said, this is going to be a shit show. This game could easily. I'm taking the under on this game without a doubt. I mean, it's not even close in my opinion, because you've got presumably Nick Mullins. I'm not sure if Jimmy Garoppolo is coming back or not, but still, even with that, the 49ers offense doesn't scare me too much, and the Eagles offense sure as hell doesn't scare me, especially against a good defense. So I'm going to take the 49ers in a pretty low-scoring game.
Yeah. I would like to pick the Eagles as underdog here, but the thing is, like, I really just don't believe that they'll be able to compete with this 49ers defense if they really couldn't do anything against the Bengals defense, which is not good by any stretch of the imagination. So it doesn't really matter who is starting under center for the Niners. Like, they really don't need to play Jimmy Garoppolo this week. They don't need to rush him back for this game. So they could very well just start Nick Mullins, probably win comfortably. Don't really have to worry about it. I'm going to go with the 49ers.
Yeah, another clean sweep. I think that, first of all, the Giants, we were talking, I think it was before the pod, we were talking about who had the best defense in the NFL, and Pittsburgh entered the conversation. They held the Giants, the Giants scored double digits on the Steelers with a healthy Saquon, even if he didn't do much. And the depleted 49ers defense held them to single digits. So
Yeah.
they only scored 9 on the 49ers defense, which was missing, I want to say it was 5 starters, which is insane. With the way that Carson Wentz has played so far, I have absolutely no faith in him to be able to put up points on a defense that can do something like that, even when it's not at its best.
Yeah.
And then when you add in the fact that they might be getting pieces back this week, it's not even a question. I think that San Francisco comes away with it pretty easily.
Yeah, I think something I want to say before we move on regarding San Francisco is I think a lot of people are kind of writing them off heading into this year because like their offense really isn't anything special, but their defense is still the defense that carried them to the Super Bowl last year. Obviously, they're missing key pieces. Nick Bosa was top 3 player, top 2 player on that defense last year, and he's out for the season. But they're still a very strong defense, a top 7 probably unit in football, without a doubt. So I wouldn't sleep on them in games where you're going against like an offensive juggernaut or whatever. I wouldn't sleep on their ability to shut down a team's offense completely.
Yeah, I
Going
agree.
ahead, so, yeah.
I agree. And one of those offensive juggernauts rounds out this week's games. The Green Bay Packers have looked absolutely monstrous so far this season, and they've got the lowly Atlanta Falcons at home on Monday night.
Yeah. You couldn't get lower than the Falcons are right now. I feel very
Yeah.
bad for their fans, having to witness 3 in the last couple of years, but 2 recently, collapses of epic proportions. I mean, to blow a lead, to really have Nick Foles step in. And the joke is always like, oh, Nick Foles, like he's this great quarterback that never gets credit and everything. And people probably were, I bet the Falcons fans were joking around. And all of a sudden he leads them and comes back against them. To blow a lead like that to the Chicago Bears is like, pretty bad. And they really don't have an excuse. I mean, their defense is nothing great. I mean, their defense has never been their strong suit, but their offense with Matt Ryan, Todd Gurley, and Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley. I know Julio didn't play last week, but in general is a great offense. It's still elite.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they're scoring at an exceptional rate. It's just that their defense can't hold up.
Yeah.
So, and there's no indication given from them that I think that they're going to be able to stop Aaron Rodgers, who looks to be his vintage self, even without Devontae Adams. He's expected to play now that it's a Monday night game. Give him another week with his hamstring. They're going to dismantle this team. I think this could, again, we talk about shootouts. This game could easily be a shootout because neither team's defense is that great. But Aaron Rodgers looks too good for me to bet against him right now.
Sus.
What? That's not sus.
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Maybe a little bit.
Maybe a little bit.
Insert Graham's. Graham's putting something in there. I know it.
I already did. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I know. I heard it.
I have to pick an upset this week, and I'm kind of forced into it, but I'm going to have to go with the Falcons here. I've been really high on the Packers this year, but if you think about it, they really barely beat the Saints. It came down to a Taysom Hill fumble, and the Saints don't look that much better than the Falcons right now, believe it or not, even though the Falcons have had 2 terrible losses in a row, blowing those ginormous leads in the fourth quarter. If the Falcons had to pick a team to upset, like, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. But, I mean, it's going to be a shootout, and that's the only games the Falcons are really going to win.
You'd pick a bad defensive team for them to upset.
Right, I would pick a bad defensive team, and the Packers really have not been good defensively this year. They have some good defensive players. They got Jair Alexander. That's really the only guy I can name. But they've got some good defensive players, but if the Falcons were going to upset a team, like this is the team to do it to. So I'm going to have to go with the Falcons. I think they're going to be able to put enough together on the offensive side of the ball, especially if Julio Jones comes back. There's nobody in the league that can guard him one-on-one. And if he's being doubled, that'll open up Calvin Ridley, Russell Gage, Todd Gurley might be able to get something going. I'm going to go with the Falcons. I'm not thrilled that I have to pick them for an upset, but I think they have potential to do it.
I think that the only way that the Falcons can pull off an upset this week is if Dan Quinn gets his head out of his ass and gives the ball to Devonta Freeman. Not Devonta Freeman, Todd Gurley. That's what I meant to say. He's been a staple in their backfield for so long. Yeah, I whenever I think of the Falcons run game, I just automatically think of Freeman. But if he can give the ball to Todd Gurley, like, they have a chance to do something. But he's been force feeding their wide receivers, which I can't really blame him for because they're great.
Talented.
Their receiving core is very, very talented. But late in games, instead of trying to run the clock out, he just keeps trying to throw the ball.
Yeah.
And they keep throwing incompletions, and it makes for quick 3-and-outs, and that's what allows them to give up blown leads.
Yeah.
That being said, I don't think that the Packers will allow for Atlanta to have a lead to blow. No sus this week. So
Well, it's a lot of sus, but okay, keep going.
I think that between Aaron Jones and Aaron Rodgers doing everything that he's been doing, there's no way in hell, heaven, earth, anything between there that the Falcons will have a lead at any point in this game, other than maybe if they choose to receive after the kickoff. So the Falcons defense just can't compare to Aaron Rodgers at this point. And there's Pat, I appreciate where you're coming from. You hadn't lone wolfed yet this episode.
Yeah.
So I
had to do it.
had to do it at least once. So I respect where you're coming from, but I think the Packers have it in the bag this week.
Another thing I wanted to say, I'm surprised Dan Quinn still has a job. I don't understand.
Yes, how is he not
logic.
fired yet? We're
I
recording
don't
on
get
Tuesday.
it.
There's
Between
recording
this
on
year
Tuesday,
and last year,
yeah.
they started 1-9
Yes.
last year,
Yeah.
and now they're 0-3, probably about to be 0-4. And
Yeah.
the fact that you've blown 2 leads like that, there's obviously just like, even if it's just a mental thing, you have to get rid of him to be able to move the team forward. You can't keep going on like that.
Yeah, I think their defensive coordinator has to go too. I couldn't name him, but like, oh my God, like,
Yeah.
how do you do this? I'm surprised that he wasn't fired yesterday, let alone so far today.
Should have been fired in the middle of the game. I mean, like in the fourth quarter.
And like, you can only use the excuse. We always talk about like, well, their defense isn't that good, and like a defensive coordinator can't, like, you can only use that excuse for so long. You can't just be like coordinating a defense that just like is mediocre to below average every single year.
Goes to the GM though. He's had years to put together a good defense for this offense, and the offense has always been in the top half of the league, and they just haven't. They've had good players. They've had Deion Jones. They've had Adrian Claiborne. Grady Jarrett, but they're just not putting it together. Nope. So somebody has to change in Atlanta.
Yeah,
or they're gonna blow it up.
Yep.
I think that you could see 3 coaches gone by this time next week. I think that Bill O'Brien, Dan Quinn, and Adam Gase.
Bill O'Brien shouldn't even be anywhere near
a football team ever again.
Ever.
He shouldn't even be allowed to watch football. Like, take away his cable subscription, please.
Yeah. Him and Adam Gase. Like, Dan Quinn is like, all right, I have sympathy for Dan Quinn, kind of like, whatever. But those two guys are just, terrible.
Especially Gase. That guy ruins every team he goes to.
Yeah.
Gase is
so
knucklehead.
I'm gonna start off our closing thoughts. Big week in sports. I've got 4 closing thoughts. Number 1, RIP Dallas Stars. I think I may have jinxed them last week, but obviously Tampa Bay Lightning coming away with the cup this week. You hate to see it, but at the same time, I like seeing parity. Yeah, I like seeing parity in the NHL. I like seeing, like, for what was it? It was like, I think it's the 3rd, maybe 4th year in a row, and then 5 years in a row that you've had different teams in the cup final. But for the 3rd or 4th year in a row, we've had a champion who hasn't won in a very long time. Exactly. So it's kind of the same reason why I was rooting for the Nationals last year, other than just fuck the Dodgers and the Astros. Everybody else in the MLB isn't the Red Sox, but like the Nationals won. You like to see teams that hadn't won in a while. So going off of that, you've got the first time in a very long time that you don't have the Warriors in an NBA Finals starting tomorrow between the Lakers and Heat. That should be a great series. And
Heat in 6.
Heat in 6.
Lakers in 4.
This episode will likely release on Wednesday night. And then not long after that, we're going to have Green Runs Deep on the podcast coming up within the next couple of days. So make sure you keep an eye out for that episode. Same great content. We're going to be talking straight Celtics and basketball, where they go from here, recapping the Eastern Conference Finals, all of that good stuff. And final closing thought for me, MLB playoffs start today, and I have 2 roommates that are both Rays fans, so please kill me now.
I'll start it off with, I was going to mention this when we were doing our predictions, but it was just announced about an hour ago that the Broncos are starting Brett Ripon at quarterback instead of. I have no idea who this guy is.
Give the boat another chance. I stand by the boat. He's good.
I have no idea who this guy is. I've never heard of him.
I've never heard of him in my life.
Is that Brett Ripon's son?
I think so.
That's sick.
So,
I'm actually here for that now. Now that would be crazy. I know he played a little bit towards the end of last week.
Yeah, he threw 53 yards and an interception. So he doesn't look like he's gonna give them any sort of advantage over Driscoll. But that doesn't really change my prediction. But I thought that was interesting. It's gonna make the game a lot closer. And then my other closing thought, I'll say the Bruins with Torrey Krug. He looks to be imminently traded within the next couple of days. I think their final offer to him was somewhere around 6 years, 6.5. I don't know if he's. Yeah, we'll trade you his rights. We need a pick though. But yeah, I don't know if he's going to accept that. I think he's looking for near $8 million, which I don't really think we should give him, especially when you're transitioning into the post Chara Bergeron era. To give a 30-year-old 6 years at 6.5, I'm not really a big fan of it. But yeah, I guess there's some rumors that we might go after Taylor Hall, move to Brusque, free up some cap. But yeah, that's all I got, I believe. Pat, I'll pass it off to you.
I don't have much except I am kind of disgusted with how the Celtics played in the last 8 minutes of that fourth quarter. There was a stretch where they shot like a stupid three-pointer, and 4 straight. I mean, we'll get more into this when we record with GRD, but they shot like a stupid three-pointer, and the Heat went back and scored, and then it got out of hand. Run it back next season, I think. I don't think we have to make any major moves. Maybe just try to get a center or something. That's really all I got.
Yeah.
And go Falcons. I really need that upset. I got to close that game. Yeah, any picks I had from doing this week have to hit.
Well,
that's about it.
That one does it. Pat, you've only got 2 picks differing from Jordan, so at the best you can break even with him. So.
That's how I keep it close. Got to pick all the same ones.
That'll wrap it up. This has been season 2, episode 5, New Guys Podcast. Like we said, keep an eye out for our episode with Green Runs Deep coming out in the next couple of days, and we'll see y'all next time.
Peace.